There is a country in Europe where the call to prayer echoes through mountain valleys, where Muslims and Christians have shared the same table for centuries, and where a communist dictator once bulldozed every mosque, every church, every shrine he could find, and declared that God was dead. That country is Albania. And the story of how Islam took root here, survived, and shaped this small Balkan nation is one of the most surprising stories you have never heard. Albania sits on the western edge of the Balkans, tucked along the Adriatic Sea, sharing borders with Greece, North Macedonia, Kosovo, and Montenegro. It is a small country, about the size of the American state of Maryland. But its history is anything but small. For most of the world, Albania is still a mystery. People might know it from a movie reference or an old news story, but very few people know that Albania is home to one of the most unique expressions of Islam in the entire world. And understanding how that happened requires going back, way back, to a time before there was even a country called Albania. Let us start in the 14th century. By the late 1300s, the Ottoman Empire was expanding rapidly into southeastern Europe. The Ottomans were a powerful Muslim sultanate, and they were moving west and north, conquering one Christian kingdom after another. In 1385, Ottoman forces entered Albanian territory for the first time. The Albanians, who were mostly Eastern Orthodox and Catholic Christians at that point, did not simply accept this. They resisted, sometimes fiercely. And this brings us to one of Albania's greatest heroes, Gjorge Kastrioti, known to history as Skanderbeg. He was an Albanian nobleman who had been taken by the Ottomans as a young child, raised in their court, trained as a soldier, and converted to Islam. But in 1443, he switched sides. He returned to Albania, converted back to Christianity, and became the leader of Albanian resistance against the Ottomans for more than 2 decades. He became a symbol not just for Albanians, but for Christians across all of Europe. Skanderbeg died in 1468, and after his death, Albanian resistance slowly collapsed. By the end of the 15th century, and through the 16th and 17th centuries, Albania came fully under Ottoman control. And this is when something remarkable began to happen. The people began to convert to Islam. Now here's where it gets interesting. Why did Albanians convert? Historians point to several reasons. Some converted for economic reasons. Muslims had more opportunities under Ottoman rule. Some converted because of social pressure. Some genuinely embraced the new faith. But many, and this is crucial, converted while keeping their old traditions, their old customs, and sometimes even their old faith, quietly, at home. This gave Albanian Islam a very particular character from the very beginning. It was flexible. It was layered. It was mixed with pre-Islamic Albanian customs, with Christian folk practices, with local mountain traditions that went back centuries before any organized religion arrived. And then there's the Bektashi order. The Bektashi are a mystical, spiritual branch of Islam, a Sufi order that has deep roots in the Ottoman world. But in Albania, the Bektashi found some of their most devoted followers. The Bektashi interpretation of Islam is notably different from mainstream Sunni practice. They do not require the 5 daily prayers in the same rigid form. They allow the drinking of alcohol in some ritual contexts. They venerate saints. Their worship centers, called techs, look almost nothing like typical mosques. And their theology is poetic, mystical, and profoundly tolerant. Today, Albania is the world headquarters of the Bektashi order. The global Bektashi leadership is based right in Tirana, the Albanian capital. This is not A minor footnote. This is a profound statement about how deeply this form of spirituality became woven into Albanian identity. But here is perhaps the most important thing you need to understand about Islam. In Albania, for most Albanians, their national identity always came first. Religion came second. There is a famous line written in the 19th century by the Albanian poet and nationalist Pashko Veza. It goes like this: the religion of Albanians is Albanianism. What he meant was that in a land divided between Muslims, Catholics, and Orthodox Christians, what truly united the Albanian people was not their faith, it was their blood, their language, their culture, their shared identity as Albanians. This idea became a foundation stone of modern Albanian nationalism. And it meant that Islam in Albania was never the kind of force that divided people from their non-Muslim neighbors. In fact, in many Albanian villages and towns, Muslim and Christian families lived side by side, intermarried, celebrated each other's holidays, and shared the same traditions. This is not just a romantic story. It is documented history. And it continues today. Then came the most dramatic chapter of all. In 1944, after World War II ended, Albania fell under the control of one of the most brutal communist regimes in European history, led by a man named Enver Hoxha. Hoxha was an absolute dictator, and he had a very particular obsession. He wanted to completely destroy religion in Albania. All religion. Every kind. In 1967, Hoxha made a declaration that shocked the world. He announced that Albania was now the world's first officially atheist state. God was banned. Worship was criminalized. Mosques were destroyed or converted into sports halls, warehouses, or cultural centers. Churches were turned into cinemas or gymnasiums. The Bektashi texts were shut down. Religious leaders were imprisoned, tortured, executed. Thousands of believers were punished simply for praying. For more than 2 decades, Albanians lived in a country where religion had been erased from public life. Entire generations grew up without ever setting foot inside a mosque or a church. The sacred texts, the traditions, the music, the rituals, all of it was pushed underground, kept alive in whispers and memories. Then, in 1991, everything changed. Communism collapsed. The old regime crumbled. And almost immediately, Albanian society went through a profound and complicated religious reawakening. Mosques were rebuilt. Churches reopened. The Bektashi texts came back to life. Foreign missionaries from Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Iran arrived, hoping to shape the religious revival in their image. But something fascinating happened. Albanians largely resisted those outside influences. They returned to their own version of faith, the tolerant, layered, culturally Albanian expression of Islam that had existed before Hoxha tried to destroy it. Today, roughly 57% of Albanians identify as Muslim. Around 10% are Catholic. Nearly 7% are Orthodox Christian. And the Bektashi community, while smaller, remains one of the most spiritually distinctive groups in the entire country. But what strikes most visitors to Albania is not the percentage, it is the atmosphere. You can hear the call to prayer in Tirana, and walk 5 minutes to a Catholic cathedral and 5 minutes more to an Orthodox church. Nobody blinks. Nobody fights. Religious life is simply part of the landscape. Islam shaped Albania in ways that go far beyond prayer and fasting. Look at the language. The Albanian language absorbed hundreds of Turkish and Arabic words. During the Ottoman centuries, everyday Albanian is filled with them, words for food, clothing, hospitality, commerce, and domestic life. You cannot speak modern Albanian without echoing the Ottoman centuries. Look at the cuisine. Albanian food is deeply influenced by Ottoman cooking traditions, the borek pastries, the roasted meats, the yogurt-based dishes, the sweet baklava-style desserts. These are not just borrowed recipes. They are centuries of shared culinary culture baked into everyday life. Look at the architecture. The old bazaars, the hammams, the caravanserais, the historic mosques that survived both war and communism, they shape the look and feel of Albanian towns in ways that are still visible today. Walk through the old city of Berat or Gjirokastër and you are walking through a living museum of Ottoman Albanian civilization. Look at the music. Albanian ISO polyphony, the ancient choral tradition, is a UNESCO-protected art form. But Albanian music also carries Ottoman influences in its instruments, its scales, its emotional character. And look at the values. Hospitality, the absolute sacred duty to welcome a guest into your home, is one of the most powerful values in Albanian culture. This concept, called besa in Albanian, means promise, trust, and sacred word. It has roots that predate Islam, but it was deepened and reinforced through centuries of Islamic ethical teaching about the sacred duty of welcoming the stranger. Albania is not a story about Islam conquering a people. It is a story about a people shaping Islam to fit who they already were. It is a story about survival. Survival through Ottoman rule, through communist terror, through international pressure. And it is a story about how identity, real identity, is always more complicated and more beautiful than any single label. If you ever get the chance to visit Albania, go. Walk through the bazaars of Gjirokastër or Berat, the old stone cities that are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Sit in a Bektashi Sufi and feel the quiet that lives inside it. Drink coffee with a Muslim family in the morning and share a meal with a Catholic family in the evening and realize that in Albania, this is just called Tuesday. This country has lessons for the whole world. About tolerance. About identity. About what happens when people decide that what they share matters more than what divides them. If this story opened your eyes to something you did not know before, please give this video a like. It truly helps more people find this content. Share it with someone who loves history, culture, or travel. Drop a comment below. I want to know what surprised you most about Albania and Islam. And if you want more stories like this, hidden histories, forgotten cultures, unexpected connections, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next one. The world is full of stories that nobody is telling. This channel is dedicated to telling them.